I remember the first time I heard the word Manananggal. It was not in a classroom, not in a book, but whispered into my ear as if it were poison. An old woman leaned forward, her skin cracked like dried riverbeds, and asked me if I believed in monsters. I laughed at her, because that is what you do when confronted with madness. But her eyes did not laugh back. They were dark and shining. Wet, weed fear, and she whispered again. They walk among us. And when the sun goes down, they feed. Her words clung to me like smoke, though I told myself it was nonsense. For years I buried it. I dismissed it. But tonight, as I sit here in the dark, I realize I should have listened, because the truth I have uncovered is worse than any nightmare I ever imagined. Tonight I will tell you everything. Not the kind of thing you find in dusty folklore books, but what I have seen, what I have felt. And if you hear scratching at your window as I speak, I beg you, don't look. They say monsters are born, not made. But the minute she is something else. Entirely. She begins as a woman, ordinary in appearance, but with a hunger planted deep inside. Some stories say she sought black magic, craving beauty, power, or revenge. Others whisper she was cursed by betrayal. But the story that haunts me most comes from a forgotten village in the Visayas, where the elders spoke of a girl named Amara. Amara was beautiful, too beautiful. Her skin pale as ivory, her lips red as ripe fruit, her eyes so dark and deep men swore they drowned in them. Men adored her. Women hated her, and in the shadows of that envy, Amara wanted something more. Freedom. She was tired of being looked at, claimed, judged, caged by the desires of men and the jealous eyes of women. So one night, when the moon swelled red and the forests breathed with shadows, she went to a Babalang, a witch who trafficked with things that should never be named. The witch warned her. Freedom comes with a price. Amara did not care. She wanted to be untouchable. The ritual began. Blood spilled onto earth, ash smeared onto flesh. Words whispered that scraped against the walls of the night. And then came the scream. It is said the scream tore her body apart, splitting her in two. Wings burst from her back-rotting leather stretched over bone, dripping with filth. Her intestines hung wet and slick, entrails swaying in the moonlight. She left behind her legs, standing hollow and empty, as her upper half rose into the air, drenched in blood. By dawn, her house was found destroyed, her bed clawed to splinters, her walls streaked in gore. But no body, only silence, and the echo of wings over the village. Soon, the babies began to vanish. Pregnant women woke screaming, clawing at their bellies, swearing they felt something sharp, something sucking. And from that night on, Amara was no more. What remained was hunger. The first Manananggal. You think these are old wives' tales, don't you? But I've spoken to those who swore they saw her. One of them was Ernesto, a farmer. His hands trembled as he told me, his eyes bloodshot and vacant. It was 2 a.m, he said, voice hoarse. I heard scratching on the roof. At first, I thought it was branches, but then wings. Heavy wings. His fingers shook as he lit a cigarette. I peeked through the window. She was there. Floating. Half a body. Entrails. Dripping. Her wings flapped like the sound of rotting sails. He swallowed hard. His lips dry. She was over my neighbor's house. Inside was a pregnant woman. I shouted. I cursed. And then her head turned. She looked at me. He went silent then, his eyes distant. He crushed the cigarette into the dirt and whispered a prayer under his breath. When I asked him if he was sure of what he saw, he said only this. I don't think. I know. That was not the only story. The Manananggal's curse is unlike anything else. At dusk, she hides. In tall grass in abandoned huts. Anywhere, no one dares to look. She stands motionless, her body trembling, and then she tears herself apart. Her top half rips free, entrails dangling, wings unfolding from her back. She leaves her lower body behind, planted like a grotesque statue in the shadows. Then she flies into the night. She hunts for one thing, Unborn children. She lands silently on rooftops, her tongue slithering out long and sharp, seeking cracks in the wood, slipping into the room where a mother sleeps. That tongue pierces the womb, and the child within is sucked dry. Some say she drinks the blood. Others say she swallows the soul. All that remains is emptiness. But there is a way to stop her. If you find the severed half she left behind, if you smear salt or ash onto the exposed flesh, she cannot return. Dawn will rise, and she will wither, her body shriveling into nothing. But think about it. Oh, many of was hearing wings overhead would ever walk into the night to look for a hollow pair of legs in the dark. In the 1990s, there was a case in Tondo, Manila. A pregnant woman swore she was being stalked. Each night she claimed she heard wings at her window. Her husband laughed, told her it was nightmares, but one night he woke to a screaming, thrashing, clawing at her belly. She said she felt something piercing her, something sucking from inside her. When neighbors rushed in, they found deep claw marks on the roof, wood splintered and shredded as though torn by talons. The woman lived. The baby did not. The doctors called it complications. The neighbors whispered another word. Money. I tell myself it is just folklore. Yet even as I say this aloud, I can feel the old woman's eyes watching me. Those black shining eyes that saw too much of the night. I can still hear Ernesto's trembling voice. I can still hear the flapping of wings that echo in every story, every testimony, every nightmare. And as I sit here, I swear I can hear something too. A rustling outside. Slow, deliberate, like wings dragging through the air. They're scraping against the roof. Closer. Louder. If you're listening, keep your lights on. Do not open your window. And above all, if you hear the sound of wings tonight, pray, because she might already be looking for you. I could have stopped there. I could have turned away from the whispers, burned my notes, and locked the door against the night. But once the Manananggal had entered my mind, she did not leave. She followed me, in the silence between heartbeats, and the shadows crawling across my ceiling. She waited, and so I dug deeper. I traveled through towns where no one wanted to speak, where old women spat on the ground at her mention, and men crossed themselves and turned away. Yet every so often, one person, just one, would break, and what they told me carved itself into my bones. There was a girl in Negros. She told me she had seen her aunt's legs standing in the forest one night. Legs, nothing else, standing upright, as if waiting. She thought it was a trick, until she looked up and saw something hovering in the air above her. Half a body, entrails dangling, mouth stretched wide as it drank from a goat. The girl ran, but she said the sound of wings followed her for miles. She never went out after dark again. Another man, a teacher, confessed in a trembling whisper that he once found the lower half. It stood in an abandoned hut, pale, empty, waiting. He could not bring himself to destroy it. His hands shook too much to sprinkle the salt he carried. He fled. And the next morning, he found a pregnant woman in his village dead, her belly torn open. He blames himself to this day. The stories piled on me like stones, pressing down, suffocating. Each testimony bled into the next until I no longer knew where folklore ended and truth began. I told myself I was collecting stories, nothing more. But deep down, I knew I was hunting her. Or maybe she was hunting me. One night, in a village where the streets thinned into jungle, I heard the sound for myself. I was staying in a wooden house, its walls thin, the windows unlatched. The air was heavy, humid, thick with the scent of earth. Around midnight, I heard scratching above me. At first it was faint, 10 stronger, like claws dragging across wood. My breath froze. Then came the wings. They were heavy, wet, like leather slapping against the air. Slow at first, then faster. Something moved across the roof. Something alive. The air grew cold. I told myself not to look, but I did. I pulled back the curtain, just enough, and saw her. She floated against the moonlight, her entrails swaying like ropes, glistening with black fluid. Her skin sagged in places, stretched taut in others. Her mouth opened wider than any human should, teeth jagged and dripping, and her tongue slid down, long and thin, twitching like a serpent, searching. She turned her head, slowly, and in that moment, I swear her eyes locked with mine. I dropped the curtain. My heart hammered in my chest. I could not move. I did not breathe. For what felt like hours, I listened, wings beating, claws scratching, tongue scraping against wood. Then, silence. When dawn broke, I went outside. The roof bore deep gashes, torn clean through. The neighbors said nothing. They only looked at me with pity. That was the night I knew the Manananggal was real. I should have left. But instead, I chased her, town to town, story to story, until the lines between my obsession and my fear blurred. I slept less. I ate little. My dreams were filled with wings. Always wings. It was during one of these restless nights that I found the hut. It stood crooked at the edge of the jungle, its roof sagging, its walls eaten by rot. The air inside was stale, thick, with the smell of decay. I stepped cautiously, my flashlight trembling in my hand, and then I saw them. Legs. They stood upright in the corner. Motionless, stiff, empty. I froze. Every story I had heard surged through me. Salt. Ash. Find the wound where the body split and poison it. If I ended this, she would wither in the sun. I could stop her. My hand reached for the pouch of salt I carried, but it shook violently. Sweat ran down my face, blinding me. The silence in the hut pressed against my skull. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. And then, I heard wings outside, slow at first, then louder. Beating. Heavy. My blood turned to ice. She was coming back. The legs stood there in front of me, pale and waiting, vulnerable, begging me to act. But I couldn't. My hand faltered. The salt spilled through my fingers, useless, falling to the floor. The roof above me creaked. Something landed. The walls shuddered, and then a voice, soft, sweet, whispering my name. She knew me. The door groaned. A shadow passed across the crack of moonlight. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the legs. My flashlight flickered, dying, plunging me into darkness. The only light came from the doorway, where a figure began to crawl through. Her face appeared first. Twisted. Beautiful in a way that was not human. Her eyes glowed faintly, pupils thin slits like a serpent's. Her tongue slithered across the floor, tasting the air, tasting me. Her wings scraped the frame as she entered, the sound of tearing wood filling the hut. I pressed against the far wall, trembling, unable to look away. She rose to a full height, entrails swaying, dripping, her mouth stretching wide with hunger, and then she smiled. Gerum. Spun my vision blurred. My body refused to move. I don't know how I escaped that night. The next thing I remember, I was running through the jungle, branches tearing at my skin, her wings beating behind me. So close, I could feel the wind they made. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs gave way. When I woke, the sun was high. The jungle was silent. She was gone. But she is not finished with me. I hear her every night now. The wings, the scratching, the voice that whispers my name from the shadows. I do not sleep. I cannot eat. I feel her eyes on me always, even now as I tell you this. If you think this is just a story, a myth, then you are a fool. She is real. She is out there, and she is listening. Perhaps, as you hear my words, she is already at your window. Perhaps her tongue is searching for the cracks, slipping into your home. Do not look, do not breathe, and if you hear the sound of wings tonight, it's already too late.